All right, we should be live. Welcome to another edition of DT Live. Today we're going to be installing the latest ISO for DTOS. Made some changes since the last stream that I did. Minor changes, nothing too major, but I did get obviously a lot of feedback from people that have tried DTOS and, things that were working, things that weren't quite working. So obviously fixing bugs, last stream that I did, excuse me, just previewing the audio. Looks like audio is good. Typically I would ask you guys, give me a yay or a nay on the audio, but in this case, I'm just going to check it out myself. Looks like all signs point to go on this. All right. Yeah, in the YouTube chat, Zero Linux, he's first in. He loves bash scripting as well. Yeah. Yeah, Junior Android, how you doing? Legendary, hi. Heather Brown, good morning. And so today, what we're going to be doing, just checking out a little bit of some of the recent work on DTOS. If you want to go grab the ISO for DTOS, I built a new ISO yesterday, or 2 days ago. Yeah, I uploaded it yesterday though, but this is 4/29, April 29th, 2 days ago. Alpha, remember? I'm calling these alpha releases. They're buggy. Don't go install this on your main production machine and, expect it to be bug free. It's a work in progress, although lots of you guys have tried this out, various of the ISOs I've released in the last couple of weeks, which most of the old ones I've deleted from the source forge, so people don't go back and install some of those. But yeah, I mean, got thousands of downloads. I know a lot of you guys have tried it in VM. Some of you have tried it out on a secondary equipment as far as real hardware. And, for the most part, even though it's an alpha release, for the most part, you're probably going to get installed just fine and end up with a working Arch Linux installation. Let's see. Yeah, John says he loves my videos. Appreciate that, John. Zero Linux. You should check out my updater script. It has a personality. All right. Heather, what DE is on DTOS? It'll be Qtile. Basically, the desktop you always see when I'm recording my desktop here. Basically, what you're seeing me run right here. Just me building an ISO that installs all of that with, all of my custom packages as well. So, when you install DTOS, it's going to install kind of a minimal Arch system. It's going to install things like Qtile. It's going to install a handful of programs, as far as a desktop suite of applications. It's not a terribly bloated installation, though. It's not a lot of programs it's going to install. I'm going to install some of my custom programs, like my DM scripts, which the repo for that is over on my GitLab, which is, all my DMenu scripts, or Rofi scripts in this case is typically how I use it, but they also work in Fuzzy Finder as well. I've created these scripts in such a way that you could actually use it with any of those run launchers, but it'll include that. Of course, I'll have my shell color scripts as well, which that repository is also over on my personal GitLab here. Where is the shell color scripts? Most of you guys know DM scripts and shell color scripts. I've been working on these for years, and they've been packaged up, and both of them are available on the AUR. I also maintain them myself if you've got the DTOS core repo installed on your system. But then I've got the GitLab specifically for DTOS, this group of repositories here, in which case you go into this stuff. This is where you'll find things like the DTOS core repo, all the packages I build, which for most of you not going to be very interesting, but for those of you looking to build your own distro, take a look at the DTOS ISO, which is essentially the Arch ISO, but it's my setup with it as far as what I use to build the DTOS ISO. I use this repo here. All you need to do is clone this repo, run this command, and it will build you a fresh DTOS ISO. The other important thing, of course, is the DTOS install script, which is the script that ships on the ISO that actually, it's a bash script that actually installs the system for you. Basically, it automates the Arch install process. Of course, I'll get into a little more detail on the DTOS install script here in a bit, but let's go ahead and run through a quick install, because the install really doesn't take very long. 10 minutes and we should be done. I've already grabbed the latest ISO, so I'm going to install this in Vert Manager, and I will point out some things that have changed since the last time we took a look at DTOS on stream. All right, let me go and grab that ISO, create a virtual machine for Arch Linux. I'm going to give this about 6 gigs of RAM. I'll give it 2 cores of the 24 cores available. Should be plenty. And 20 gigs of space is more than enough. Again, it's not a terribly bloated distro. I'll call this DTOS 01 in case we do multiple runs today if I run into any issues. And when you first launch, one thing you need to know, you need to install DTOS on a UEFI system. It will not install to a legacy BIOS system. And before, I thought me just warning you guys, hey, don't do this on BIOS, do it on UEFI. I thought people would understand that and not do it. I put it on the SourceForce page. Hey, it's got to be a UEFI system. If you do this in a virtual machine, it's got to be a UEFI virtual machine. Make sure you tick on enable UEFI in the virtual machine. But I had a lot of people that actually ran through installations of this, then complained that when they reboot, nothing happens. And the reason is because part of me making this script as easy and as simple as possible, I automate a lot of things, including partitioning the drive. I use GPT partition tables, which are UEFI, not legacy BIOS. So if I had created this virtual machine as a legacy BIOS system, and I type DTOS install, which is how you would run the script. Now, if it is not a UEFI system, you will get a warning. It will not run the script. It will just not let you do the installation, which before you could actually run through the complete installation. Take, the 10-minute install, everything looks fine, you go reboot, and then, hey, what the hell happened? Now you can't do that. So if you try to run this on a legacy BIOS system now, the script will refuse to run. One other thing I did, one of the content creators that took a look at DTOS a week or two ago, Linux Mitch. This guy, I don't know if you guys know Linux Mitch. Let me go actually escape out of this virtual machine just for a quick second. This content creator here, he took a look at DTOS on a couple of videos a couple of weeks ago, and I noticed in his VMs he was always having to make the font bigger because the font is small in a TTY. And of course there are commands to make the fonts in your TTY bigger. You can change the font face and size and all of that. And I thought, what? Because a lot of people will want to do that, especially content creators, but also people that aren't content creators. Sometimes this font, in the TTY, is too small. So now on the ISO, you do have an alias. I created a bash alias. Just type big font, all one word, hit enter, and there you go. Now you got a font, hopefully, that you can read. So now let's run through the DTOS install. I'm going to go ahead and run tmux first. And the reason I'm going to do that is because the TTY does not have scroll back, obviously. Like if something fails, you can't scroll back in the TTY. But tmux, you can scroll back in. So launch tmux first. That way, if the script does happen to fail, I can scroll back and see what the error message is. So now DTOS, DTOS install, all one word. Very first thing it's going to do, it's going to list your block devices. It's going to do a lsblk, list the drives in your machine, basically. Which drive do you want to install to? Now, in a virtual machine, I've only got the one virtual drive, so one is the only thing for me to check. But if you've got multiple drives in your machine, pick the right drive. Make sure you pick the right drive. You do not want to format the wrong drive, because anything on that disk is going to be lost, right? So next, choose your file system. You've got two choices, ButterFS 1 or Extend4 2. I'm going to do ButterFS. Disk encryption, yes or no. 1 is yes, 2 is no. I'm going to do encryption. Choose a kernel, the standard Linux kernel, the LTS kernel, the Zen kernel. I'm just going to do the standard kernel. And then select a locale. English US UTF-8. Probably the one you want to go with. Keyboard layout. Obviously, you should know what kind of keyboard you're using. I just use a standard US key map. But if you need other things, you know, German keyboards, Belgian keyboards, Colmag, you know, whatever it is you're doing, you know, again, hopefully you know what kind of key map you need. And then pick your time zone. I need America/Chicago. And then choose a host name for the computer. I'm going to call this computer DTOS. And then you need to create a LUX disk encryption password. That's if you chose to encrypt the disk. If you didn't, you won't get to this. So for me, I'm going to create a strong and complicated encryption password. Then choose a root password. And then create a username. I'm going to call my user DT. And then a strong and complicated password for the DT user. And then, would you like to install the DTOS Qtile desktop? Choose yes to this. You could choose no, because I have created the script in a way that if you choose no, I'm not going to install Xorg or Wayland or Qtile or any desktop applications of any kind. It'll just be like a standard base Arch install where at the end all you get is the TTY. I'm not quite certain that that's a great experience just yet, because I haven't really tested that option. But let's just go with installing DTOS with the Qtile desktop. And then that's it. You get a summary of the choices you've made. And if everything looks good, would you like to install DTOS based on this configuration? 1 is yes. And then one more safety check. Hey, formatting the disk /dev/VDA. All data on this will be lost. Do you wish to proceed? 1 for yes. And then you're essentially done. You wait about 10 minutes and the installation should be complete. Right now it's going to check the mirrors. It's going to run a reflector command here, basically to try to find the fastest mirrors for Pacman to use, because this is a net install. It's going to download a bunch of packages, right? I don't ship a whole bunch of packages on the ISO. The ISO is rather small. So it's going to go and grab the latest versions of everything when it installs everything. So when we're done with the DTOS installation, we shouldn't have to update the machine right after like you do with a lot of distros, because this is a net install. You're always going to be on the latest version of everything. This reflector command is one of the things that takes the longest. It's going to take, I don't know, maybe a minute to sort the mirrors here. Then after that, things go pretty quickly. Go back to the chat, see what's going on in the YouTube chat. What kernel are you using, DT? I'm using Arch Linux with Qtile. I have installed Brave, but it goes slow and don't know why. Well, you being your computer being slow probably doesn't have anything to do with the kernel. Shouldn't affect the desktop. Shouldn't affect your web browser, really. I'm just using the standard kernel, though. So that's on my main machine, my host machine. In this VM, I'm also going to use the standard Linux kernel. But if things are running slow on your machine, yeah, I don't know. Now, you're going to have to investigate a little bit there. I wouldn't suspect that that's a kernel problem. Could be a hardware problem. I hope not. Hopefully your hardware is good. You're using Qtile. Could be a Qtile configuration problem. Maybe something is slowing you down. maybe swap out whatever qtile config you're using with like a default config and just see, hey, things work better with that. And if it does, then you know, hey, well, something in your config was maybe, you know, slowing some things down unnecessarily. All right, yeah. Yeah, how you doing, Ben? David Garcia, hi. All right. Yeah, Zero Linux. Yeah, check out your script. Yeah, let me click on that, make sure I've got that for later. All right. You don't know have changed kernel with Arch, LTS, and Zen. Everything goes well with LTS. Yeah, I mean, the LTS kernel should work fine for you. The Zen kernel should work fine for you. All the kernels should work fine for you. The only real issue you should have with a kernel is if you had like a really new piece of hardware, like a, you know, you just bought a motherboard and CPU, maybe a GPU that just came out yesterday, and you need the absolute latest driver for some of that equipment, then being on a recent version of a kernel is a good idea, because the older versions may not have that driver for that brand new piece of hardware that just came out. But outside of that kind of unusual, you know, circumstance for most of us, like 99.9% of us, yeah, the kernel should be good on whatever you're running. Yeah, appreciate that, David. It says, thanks, content is amazing. Thank you, David. All right, installing some packages here. So it ran the reflector command to get the fastest mirrors, and then after that it went ahead and partitioned the drive. Remember, I selected ButterFS for this, but it could also partition it to use the Extend4 file system. Either one is fine, both work. I've tested both. And then after that, it runs a packstrap command, the standard packstrap command that you do when you do the command line Arch Linux installation. You feed it a list of packages to install using packstrap. You can see we're installing a lot of the desktop packages here. This was Qtile and various related graphical packages. Going to install the Alacrity terminal, the Brave browser, PCman FM for file manager, Emacs, VLC will be here for a media player. That's about it for like the graphical applications. Of course, we'll need a lot of libraries installed for some of that stuff to work, especially like the multimedia players. I got some kind of error there about the Noto fonts, but I think that was just a slow mirror. I think it went and grabbed those from a different mirror, so this is not going to cause a problem or failure with the installation. Now, one of the things with the install script, I'm running a lot of commands, and there's going to be a ton of output. As you can see, there's a ton of output. You don't necessarily need to see a lot of this output. I could script this in such a way where I could send all of this output to /dev/null, basically where, you know, it just, you don't have all this unnecessary output, because it is, you know, there's thousands of lines of output that get spit out when you run the script. So some of that, especially some of the stuff that seems really unnecessary to see as far as the output, I'll eventually get rid of that, as far as I'll just redirect that output to /dev/null. That way it doesn't get spit out into the terminal. Right now, though, I wanted to see the output for every single command for debugging purposes, right? So, because I'm not sure, you know, I'm testing things out, not sure if the script will fail. If it does, where it will fail. If it does fail, I need to see the error messages, so I need the output, you know, here in the terminal. I'm getting a ton of output right now. I'm updating the man page database. I'll explain why. This is brand new to this ISO that I just put out. Updating the man pages during the installation. And that's it. That was the end of the installation. It set up some systemd services for us automatically, and that's it. So let's go ahead and reboot into our newly installed DTOS. Let's see. I get full screen. This is our grub menu. Hit enter. Now, if you chose to do disk encryption, and remember, it's optional now, but if you chose to do disk encryption, you have to enter your Lux password now. Take a second. And then hopefully it should launch us into our login manager. Yeah, John in the chat, is this a VM? Yeah, this is a virtual machine. And then we got to our login manager just fine. Let's log in to hopefully our Qtile desktop. So here we are. Now, some of the changes I've made recently, there were some errors before with some of the widgets. I've cleaned up a lot of that. The errors were associated with, I just didn't install enough packages. Some of these widgets do have dependencies for them to output correctly. The volume widget, for example, to work correctly needed also utils installed, which I've now added to the install script. The CPU and memory widgets also had a couple of libraries that needed to be here for them to work. I can't remember what they were offhand. There's a couple of Python libraries they needed. So there were like 3 extra packages I need to install to get these widgets working. Now they all display properly. They all, you can see they're actually working. If they weren't working before, you would see like CPU : and then import error, memory : error, volume just wouldn't be anything. It'd be just volume : and then nothing. But now they are working. When you click the widgets, I do have clickable events on most of these widgets if it seems appropriate. And I could set this up to where the clickable event could be anything, but for CPU and memory, it just made sense. If you see something wrong with your CPU or memory, it's very high for some reason, what's the most likely thing you want to do? You probably want to run a system monitor like HTOP. So when you click on it, that's exactly what happens with the CPU. You click on the memory, same thing, it runs HTOP. That way you can immediately go check what's using all that CPU or memory. For the disk click event, I just added a notification. So it's a dunce notification. It's not themed, but we'll work on that another day. We still have some theming stuff to get to, but now you just get your notification: disk space, total disk, used disk, free disk. So click it that away. The volume, the clickable event is you mute the volume. When you click it again, you unmute the volume. You use the scroll wheel to, go up and down as far as the percentage of volume. The clock, I don't know if I had a clickable event on the clock. I did. I had another notification. Date and time. You get, instead of just the clock, now you get the date with it. So Thursday, May 1st, and then the time. Then you get your sys tray at the end. Right now, the only thing sitting there is your network manager applet. I didn't bother putting in any other system tray icons or anything. And right now, the install is rather minimal. Other than that, in the panel, DTOS, this icon has been here before, but clicking it did nothing on the previous versions. Now clicking it brings up a YAD display window, a dialog window that lists all the key bindings from your Qtile config. And if you change the Qtile config, this gets updated too. It will always show you the right key bindings. Now, let's go ahead and fix the theming. So let me do Super Shift Enter to bring up Rofi. Super Shift Enter, that's your launch, your run launcher here. Search for LX Appearance because that's what I'm using to change the GTK themes. Let's switch to a dark theme. I'm going to go Ogre Dark Icon Theme. Let's make sure it's on a dark theme as well. Make sure it looks right. And then close that. And now when I click on DTOS, now we get the dark YAD window. But I really needed something to show you all the available key bindings just because, I don't have enough copy space. to show you every single key binding. You could go and open the Qtile config and read the config, but I just wanted to make this a little easier for you to be able to get that information. And what this is, if you do super enter to bring up a terminal, I have a script here. It's not my script. I got it off of GitHub somewhere. I'll share the URL here in a minute, but there is this script called Qtile keys. If you run it, it's a Python script. Basically, it goes and takes a look at your Qtile, your config.py, which is your Qtile config, and it grabs all the key binding information and formats it nicely into a table. So I thought that was a really neat script. So I took that script and made sure it gets installed into DTOS. So you've always got this available. So if you got a terminal or even in a TTY, which why do you need Qtile key bindings in a TTY? I don't know, but now you've got Qtile keys, and then the graphical program that I went ahead and created, Qtile keys -yad, is basically taking that information and then just piping that into YAD. And of course, I created the icon for it. I don't remember if I added a Qtile shortcut to bring that up or not. We'll check the Qtile config in a minute. I did add some new key bindings for other stuff, though. Other than that, in the Qtile panel, of course, you got your workspaces here, which do work to switch workspaces. But typically you would super 2 to go to workspace 2, super 1. Usually you're not going to use your mouse for this, but mouse does work if you want to use it. Then you've got 4 quick launchers here. The first one, the little lion face, is Brave as the browser. If you're going to use Brave, go ahead and set it as the default browser on this screen. If you're not going to use it, don't set it as the default browser. Just close it, go to the terminal, and install whatever browser you want to use. For purposes of this VM, I'm going to use it, and I'm going to set it to dark mode because, yeah, I don't like light things. And we're pretty much done with that. The rocket ship here, that's just the Alacrity terminal, which is already key binded to super enter. Super enter opens the terminal. Super shift C always closes the window that has focus, so super shift C makes it go away. I did key bind the browser too. Super W for web browser will open Brave. We have there our file manager. This is PCManFM. Let me go ahead and turn on all hidden files and directories because I may need to see them later. That is PCManFM. Super shift C to close. The guitar logo here is our media player, which I've installed VLC. So if you need a graphical audio / video player, VLC is on the system. MPV is here, of course, as well for video player. Also, MPD / MPC is also here. So if you need a terminal-based music player, MPC is here. There's nothing to play right now, but if you had music sitting in your music directory, this music directory obviously is empty in this virtual machine, but if you got a music directory in your home directory, that's where MPC will look for music. And I have a script, part of my DM scripts, I have a music script. So to take a look at all the DM scripts on the system, do super P followed by H for hub. This is the DM hub. It lists all the DM scripts. One of the scripts is DM music, and it is a music player, uses MPC. If I hit toggle to toggle it to play, it should start playing if there was some music to play. There's no music to play in this VM though. Most of the DM scripts, though, you don't have to do super PH and then search for them. I have almost all of them hotkeyed to their own commands. For example, DM man, which is a man page searcher, I have hotkeyed to, or key binded to super P followed by M for man page, search man pages. And now we can look through all the man pages on the system. That's why I had to update the man DB on the ISO. It's because this would not work without that. But now let me find a man page I need to read. I don't know. Maybe I want to read LSCPU. Just search for a command. Hit enter. It opens the Alacrity terminal displaying the man page for LSCPU. Q to quit. Or if you're just, for whatever reason, want a random man page, you're one of those people that kind of nerdy, you can do super PM, and then instead of search for man pages, just go grab a random man page. It's going to display the one it chose, then hit enter, and it opened that man page once again in a terminal, Q to quit. We'll come back to the virtual machine here in a minute. Take a quick look at the chat, see what we missed here. Any story behind that wallpaper? It's just a wallpaper. It's always been the one that is the default when I do my installations as far as the ISOs I've built in the past, the post-installation script. The reason is there's a file somewhere that sets the wallpaper, and it's always set to the same file name, that file, that particular image. Let's see. Are you going to talk about PewDiePie like every other Linux YouTuber? No, I don't really know his content. I don't think I've ever watched a video by PewDiePie. So no, I can't. There's no point in commenting on it. Plus, people trying out Linux for the first time or whatever. That's not a topic that is terribly interesting to me. Yeah, I don't hate the idea of him talking about it, but too many people are talking about it. Yeah, fair enough. Any plans for Wayland? Well, Qtile is working on Wayland support. There is a Wayland session for Qtile. Don't try it on my config. Matter of fact, I disabled it from the login session. When you log in, it uses Qtile on X11. You could reinstall Qtile and it will add a Qtile Wayland session back to the login manager, and you could try to log in to Qtile using Wayland. I know the way my configs are set up, it does not work. It's not going to work at all. It should be a black screen and literally nothing's going to work. You're going to have to hard reboot the system. So don't try it with my configs. But yes, Qtile already has some Wayland support. So when Wayland's actually really ready, you know, I'll already be on something that has Wayland support anyway. I'll have to swap out some things. There will be, for example, there are widgets in this panel that are specifically designed to work with X11, namely the systray. Systrays on X11 work differently than Wayland, so I'd have to change that part of the config and some other stuff as well. Certain programs I install, especially things that haven't seen an update in a decade or more, are probably X11 only kinds of programs. Probably have to swap them out for alternatives. So there'd still be some work, but for the most part, once the Qtile guys really have Qtile working on Wayland, and I feel like it's good to go, I'll make sure, at least on the DTOS login manager, that you guys have options to log in. Right now, I know it's not going to be a good option, so I disable it, because I don't want, otherwise people would accidentally be logging in to Qtile on Wayland, which is not going to work at all, and then they're going to come back, hey man, this thing sucks, it doesn't work at all. It's like, yeah, I know. So let's see, you should have some eye protection. Do you move your Qtile config with /etc skill to the user's home directory? I do something similar, but I don't use skill. Oh, let me open the terminal here. The reason I don't use skill is because I just didn't want any conflicts for anything that Arch may use for skill, which I don't know. Arch really doesn't use a skill directory per se. They may have a custom bash config. I know they have some stuff going on with ZSH, and I do actually have my own packages for those particular configs as well. But just, anybody that wants to use the skill directory, with custom things, I just create my own, just to avoid any kind of conflicts. So if I cd into /etc/DTOS, this is my skill. I'll create this directory, /etc/DTOS. When I do a ls, it's a skill, right? It looks like a user's home directory. Got .cache, .config, .local, .bash rc, .x resources, .zshrc, and then in the .config you'll have the alacrity config, the qtile config, the emacs config. .local will have .local/bin/ a bunch of scripts like the qtile keys thing we showed earlier and various other things. .cache, I have a file there, I think .cache wall, and that is the file that has the location to the wallpaper that needs to be drawn when you log into qtile. So all of that gets installed during the installation process. So you're going to install, well, let's do a DTOS. Remember, we have DTOS on the system. Don't worry, if you type sudo, it will run DTOS because they're linked. But sudo or DTOS pacman dash, let's update the repos just in case that needs to happen. And let's install DTOS dash and then tab key. It did not complete anything. Did we not get? Oh, there we go. There's the tab complete. So these are all the packages that get put in etc/DTOS. And these are the config files for various things. MPD, Rofi's here, yeah. The DM scripts config. So that's not the DM scripts themselves. There's a config file specific for DM scripts that's customized just for DTOS. That's why I've got that here as well. DTOS local bins, a bunch of bash scripts that I want you guys to have. Yeah, well, that's it. So that gets installed when you run the ISO. All this stuff, gets thrown into etc/DTOS, and then at the end of the DTOS install script, it does a copy or an rsync. I forget which one I use, but either one would work. Yeah, you could do a recursive copy of etc/DTOS into the user's home. And then, all that just becomes their new home. So that's how that works. That's how you get all my config files, from them being installed as packages and then getting moved into the home directory. And the reason you have to do that for folks that are new to how Linux works as far as package managers, a package manager cannot install anything to your user's home directory. So that's why these packages have to get installed to someplace other than your home directory, like in my case, /etc/DTOS, right? That's not the user's home directory, that's a system directory. And then later I have to copy them myself over to the user's home, because pacman cannot touch your home. The apt package manager for Debian can't touch your home. Generally speaking, Linux package managers are not allowed to touch your home. Yeah, what about using etc/scale? Yeah, I just answered this question. Maybe you're behind on the stream for a second. Yeah, I've already had these packages set up forever using /etc/DTOS. Remember, this started life as a Arch post-installation script, and people could install this on other Arch distros, for example, Manjaro or Endeavor or Garuda, and they use /etc/scale for various things. And I can't be in there, messing around when their packages are also installing stuff to it, because we're going to overwrite each other's packages. So that's why originally I just created my own directory, /etc/DTOS. Nobody else is going to use that directory because it's not a directory that's standard on a Linux system. So I just create my own. I know it's safe. So also, again, standard Arch Linux, if they ever want to do anything with the scale directory, if they want to throw their custom bash RC on a system and use /etc/scale, I don't have to worry about it in my case, because I wasn't using it to begin with. So it just prevents some headaches. Hey DT, will you install a NeoVim distribution? Probably not. I may install like a basic NeoVim config, but I may not even do that. NeoVim is one of those things that you can use it right out of the box. It's very different than Emacs. Emacs is practically unusable out of the box. You have to configure it. But like NeoVim and regular Vim, they just work out of the box. So All right, let's take a look at the config for Qtile, because there have been some changes to it. I forgot, we got to finish the Emacs installation. So when you first log in for the very first time, Emacs in the background has been running. You just don't know it. It starts the Emacs daemon, and it starts compiling software. It's installing all the Emacs packages that my Emacs config tells it to install. It hangs on this one here, vterm toggle. Just close that window, open a terminal, and type REM for restart Emacs. I'm going to restart the Emacs daemon. It's going to ask you to compile vterm module. Type Y for yes. I need to figure out a way to get around needing to do this. I haven't figured it out. It's not that important right now. And this is a simple thing to do. And then super E followed by E relaunches Emacs. And this is actually my Emacs. Now, there's going to be some more compiling going on. You see CPU 56%, Emacs is taking up most of that. Because even though it hung on that one program, there were still things after that it still needs to compile. So it's still not quite ready. So we'll give it a minute. Let's see, back to the chat. Why don't you create DTOS as a Hyperland script? Because I'm not gonna use Hyperland. Hyperland's okay, but it's not my favorite window manager. I like Qtile and Xmonad, things like that. How they handle workspaces, right? So it doesn't make sense for me to create a script for something that I'm probably not going to use. There would be bugs in it that I would never fix because I'm not using it. I'd be using something else. It just, I'm going to make what I'm using, right? It's the only thing that makes sense. I'm not going to support anything I don't plan on using as far as living in full time. So right now, Qtile is going to be the only window manager. Yeah, as soon as you typed it, you said it. Yeah, I figured that. Yeah, I know a lot of people. Yeah, gotta do that too, watching live streams. You step away for a minute, maybe you got to go take a tinkle or go grab a cup of coffee. You'll pause the stream. That way you don't miss anything. So when you come back, and you forget you paused it, and then you start typing a question that gets answered eventually anyway. Yeah, I kind of assumed. No problem there, though. All right, I'm going to go back and see if my Emacs is working. Just for safety check, REM, restart Emacs. One more time. Just to really see if things work now. Looks like everything looks good. So I'm going to do space FC for space is the leader key in my Emacs config. Space FC. Space F for find, C for my Qtile config, actually my Emacs config. It's the Emacs config, space FC. That's not what I wanted. Space period launches the find file command. Sure. Interactive file manager, essentially. Let me navigate to .config/qtile/readme.org is actually what I'm going to read. But if you wanted just the Python file, config.py is the file. But the readme can be written over to config.py. I've got that set up for me, because I like reading things as org documents. But some of the things I've added recently, well, right here at the top of the key bindings, let me quit out of those error messages there. Mod Shift T runs conky toggle. And actually, I just noticed I've got T capitalized. I didn't need to capitalize that T because the shift is going to capitalize. It doesn't matter. It works. It runs a script called conky toggle. I made a video the other day about creating simple scripts that toggle things on and off. Sometimes, especially in virtual machines, when you redraw the resolution, the conky will be off screen or conky will just disappear on you and you're wondering, how do I get that back? Well, now I've got Super Shift T for toggle conky. Super Shift T, it's gone. Super Shift T, it starts it again. So if you redraw the resolution and conky disappears on you, Super Shift T to kill it if it happens to still be running. Super Shift T again will restart it, and now it should be back in the right place on your new screen resolution. There were some other things I know I changed in the key bindings. This is not new, but I did want to mention it's here. Restarting the Emacs daemon, REM, or restart Emacs. That's a bash alias. It's also a fish alias, a ZSH alias. I'm using the fish shell by default, but that alias works in any terminal on all those shells. But I added a key binding here, which is all the Emacs related key bindings are mod E, so super E followed by a key. So super E followed by E just launches the Emacs dashboard, the front page of Emacs. And then super P, A launches the music player, super P, B, super E, P, B. Super E followed by B, let me try that again, launches iBuffer, all the buffers that are open. I can show you that. Super E, B, it's all the buffers that are open right now. So anything I've looked at so far since I launched the Emacs daemon. Super E followed by F4. Weird key binding, but I wanted it to be weird because it's kind of dangerous, because if you were doing work in Emacs, you wouldn't want to accidentally kill Emacs, but super E followed by function 4 kills Emacs and restarts the daemon. So it just killed it. It did restart the daemon, so if I wanted to bring it back up now, then I'll launch a new instance of Emacs, back to the dashboard. Let me get back into the Qtile config and zoom back in. But that was not the new key bindings I wanted to mention. I wanted to mention the new DM scripts key bindings. So super P, or prompt, followed by various letters, runs various DM scripts. Now I have super PU that wasn't here before. Super PU is the music player. Why is it U? It's because I was using M already for the man page, right? So I couldn't use M again. So I just used the second letter, music, MU. So it's super PU for the music player. That's your MPC player. One thing I'm noticing right now, this script doesn't even exist anymore. I've deleted it from the DM scripts. So that key binding needs to go away. I'll make a note of that. Actually, let me make a note of that right now. Bring up a to-do list here. Just going to make a quick note. You guys are not going to see me making this note, but I'm going to say remove DM conf edit key binding. All right. So the next time I build an ISO, actually I don't even need to, this is a great thing about having these DTOS related packages for the configs. I don't necessarily have to do anything to the ISO to fix this. I can just push out a new version of DTOS-Qtile, which is the Qtile config. It gets put in /etc/DTOS, right? The next time I push it out, that line will be gone. Now you will manually have to go grab the new config from /etc/DTOS and copy it over into your home directory, or why even do that? I just told you this line doesn't need to be here, and just delete it. And it's gone, boom. Let me write that, because this is the README. I need to copy it over into the actual config.py, so space M capital B to tangle that, super shift R to restart, yeah. And now, that was super PE, yeah, does nothing, so. Problem solved there. Back to the chat here. Yeah, I see, check the script, you're using rsync, that's one way I prefer, yeah. Yeah, I was using rsync just because for speed, I thought it might be faster, because I do copy a lot of things from the ISO over into the new installation. So that's what all those rsync commands are. I'm putting some things on the ISO. Well, what's happening is when you run through the installation, you do the pack strap, and it installs all those various DTOS related packages, which are the configs that get put in /etc/DTOS. But it's putting those, well, it's putting those in the actual new installation, but still they got to get copied over to the right folder. But there are some things actually on the ISO that I copy over into the new installation. For example, I think I'm shipping the ISO with the backgrounds, the wallpapers, already on the ISO. So I have to actually copy those from the ISO, the actual file system on the ISO, into the new installation. You know I do that with rsync. Somebody's behind on the video a little bit. What are my thoughts on the PewDiePie video? I haven't watched it. I've never watched a PewDiePie video. I've got no thoughts on him. Got no thoughts on that video. So I'm sorry. And I haven't watched any videos about reactions to the PewDiePie video. I don't know anything about it. So. Yeah, Kevin. So when you first install DTOS, yeah, the very first time the very first time you log into Qtile, it automatically is going to run the Emacs daemon, and it's going to start compiling software. Emacs has to compile some software, and you're going to have to restart the daemon like I did 2 or 3 times. You may have to answer a question yes or no for compiling certain packages. It'll prompt you. But after you restart it a couple times, after about 5 minutes or so, no more error messages. If I go to an empty workspace here, I'm already on workspace. Well, I'm not. Am I even? What's going on? I might have broke the config earlier when I let's undo everything. I don't know why that would have broke the config, but now, yeah, that is weird. Let me make sure. No, it tangles it to config.py, which we're in the right directory. Why would that have caused me some issues? Let's try that one more time. Delete that line. Let's write that. Let's tangle it. Let's restart, and now, yeah, now it's working. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there, but everything is right now. But yeah, very first time you launch Emacs with my config, it's got to install a bunch of packages. Because Emacs has its own package manager. It installs various Emacs packages to make Emacs what Emacs is. But once you're done with that, that'll be a 5 or 10 minute thing the very first time you log in. And then after that, you see, we're not using any CPU anymore. Compilation's finished. So it already finished installing everything it needed. Yeah, am I configuring Qtile here for DTOS? Yeah, I mean, that's I'm not doing any serious customization right here on camera. I'm showing you a little bit of what I've done. Some of the other things I did with the configuration, made the icons a little bigger. Someone was asking about, especially like the workspace icons. They weren't big enough. They wanted, to be able to see them a little bit more. So I increased the font size slightly, increased the bar width also slightly, and some of the spacing also slightly. So, other than that, I added a new script. It's a script I've had before that I used on one of the old DTOS like post installation scripts, and this is called DTOS-color scheme. We're looking at it in NeoVim right now. But basically what this does is there's 10 different color schemes that are available in my Qtile config. Let me open Emacs. Matter of fact, I'll open this in Emacs too. That way we can look at everything all in one program. Let me go to the Qtile config. Qtile config, color scheme here in the table of contents. Got 10 different color schemes that are available. The reason is in .config/Qtile, I created this file called colors.py. It's basically a Python library that we can source. And all it is I define these 10 color schemes. Doom 1, Dracula, Grubbox, yada, 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 right? And then this line here changes the color scheme. Colors equals colors dot Doom 1. So it's colors equals, and it's a variable, it equals colors, this colors.py, right? Colors dot, which module from it, Doom 1 in this case. Now, I don't want people to have to go and manually edit this line ever. So I created a script that will go and change this line for you. It will find this line through the magic of grep or sed or, some of the standard GNU core utils will find this line and change it to the appropriate value that you choose from a Rofi menu. Now, of course, that would just change the color scheme for Qtile. Well, what about the color scheme for Emacs? Because that's also set to Doom 1. What about the color scheme for Alacrity, which is also using Doom 1? What about the color scheme for Conky, which is also set to Doom 1 color scheme? I have all 10 color schemes available in all of those programs. So let's go back to the script that I was going to show you. It's .local bin DTOS-color scheme. And create this array. It's a standard array. You need to have DM scripts, by the way, installed for this to work, because I do source the DM scripts config, and I do that for a reason. But at least on the standard version of DTOS, as it comes out of the box, DM scripts will be there anyway. But I have this array of our 10 color schemes, and then depending on which one you choose, for example, case choice, Doom 1. So if you choose Doom 1, we're going to do all this. And we've got a comment here, Alacrity, and then the sed command or the line in my Alacrity config. Go find that line, and then I want to make sure that line gets set to this particular, string here. And I do that several times with the sed command. Qtile, there's a few files I want to go find and do some sed substitution. And then at the end, I run the Qtile command to restart itself. Conky, do the same thing. Sed substitution for the Conky config, and then Conky, I want you to kill yourself and then restart yourself. And then Emacs, same thing. Sed substitution into my Emacs config for the line that sets the color scheme. And then Emacs loads. I do not restart Emacs. And I do that for safety reasons. If you were working on something, obviously you'd lose your work if I just killed Emacs. So Emacs, you would manually restart yourself if you need to. So the way this works, I have this binded to Super P C. So Super P C for color scheme. We're already on Doom 1, so let's go to something that's very drastically different. Solarized Dark. And it changed, well, the Qtile panel to Solarized Dark. It changed the Conky to Solarized Dark. It changed Alacrity to Solarized Dark. And it did change Emacs to Solarized Dark. But remember, the Emacs daemon was already running, and when it started itself, it was told to use Doom 1. So it doesn't switch on its own. But if I restart Emacs, REM, there's Emacs with the Solarized color scheme. So kind of automates the process. Otherwise, there's like 8 different files at least, probably. You would have to go change that value if you wanted to change from one color scheme to the next in all these programs. Super PC, let's get back to Doom 1. And now Conky is back, Qtile's back, Alacrity's back. And when I kill the Emacs, I didn't have to restart the Emacs daemon. I just needed to close that window and get back into it, and it did change itself. Oh, that's interesting. I like that. Very simple little script. It's actually a very lengthy bash script as far as the lines, the DTOS color scheme script. But really just one array, and then the main function here is a case statement with 10 different cases, each of the 10 different color schemes. And depending on which you choose, that's all these sed substitutions, a lot of sed substitutions. So if you're new to sed, well, let's go to a new workspace. Let me cat my bash RC. And there is a line in here. I know that includes my name. I scroll back up. Actually, we're not even going to do that. Alias. Got all these aliases that are alias, lowercase. Let's cat the bash RC, pipe that into sed. Actually, we don't need to cat into sed. Just sed .bashrc, and S for substitute, and then the string we're substituting, alias, for the string we're going to substitute it with, alias. G for global, meaning every instance you find, not just the first. Did not like that. Maybe I needed to add the file name at the end. There we go. And you see all of these aliases are now capital aliases, right? Now, that is just printed to standard output. It actually did not change my bash RC because it would break my bash RC if I had done that for real. But if you actually want it to write to the file, tack on the -i flag. And the -i stands for in place replacement. All right, it's going to actually write to the file. We're not going to do that. But that DTOS color scheme script, you see, said -i all over the place. So we're actually writing those files. And then the last part here is some flags. Depending on how you want to run this, it's just like all my DM scripts. You have 3 different flags. You could give it -d to run with D menu, -r, which is the standard way that I've got key binding, to run with Rofi, or -f to run it with Fuzzy Finder. And that's it. And then at the end, if no options are given, just run it using the default menu variable that DM scripts uses, which is Rofi, I believe, right now. So that is the color scheme changing script. Very simple. It looks complicated, but it really is just a lot of sed. I've mentioned this many times in the past. If you actually want to get into some bash scripting, some really neat stuff, there's really 3 of the most useful and powerful commands you'll ever learn are grep, sed, and awk. There's very little you can't get away with just knowing grep, sed, and awk. And in that case, in that particular script, all I needed was sed for what I was trying to do there. Now back to the YouTube chat. It's too bad the Orca screen reader does not work with that desktop, only works with Mate and GNU. And why not send a notification to restart Emacs? Well, yeah, I agree, Sid. Actually, now I may not even need to do that now that I know it's only the current windows that you had open. They don't change, but the next Emacs window you open would be on the new color scheme. So yeah, I'm not sure if I would even need to do the notification. It wouldn't hurt, though. I certainly could send a notification, desktop notification, kind of similar to what I was doing with some of the widgets here, where the date and time pulls up a notification. What else did I have? The disk space notification. Yeah, I like that idea. How about testing your update script on DTOS? You will love it. There's not, but the problem is there won't be anything to update, right? Because it was a net install. So I seriously doubt it would find anything to update. Unless they pushed out something in the last 45 minutes or so since we finished the installation. Yeah, some of the other DM scripts, Super PB to set the background. Super PB. Set. You get a list of all the wallpapers here. These wallpapers are found in user share backgrounds / DTOS-backgrounds. Navigate to whatever wallpaper you feel like setting. It really doesn't matter which one you set. But when you find one, hit M to mark. M on the keyboard to mark the wallpaper. Then Super Shift C to close the window. Change the wallpaper for you. And also, right now, the CPU is going to spike a little bit because ImageMagick is also doing something. It is creating a new lock screen image to match this wallpaper. I do Super Shift Q to quit. This is our session manager. It's also part of DM scripts. This is dm-logout is the name of the script. The very first option is lock screen. If I hit enter on that, our lock screen changed. So now, anytime you change your wallpaper, that should work. Now before, I had mentioned I was going to make sure that worked on the last stream we did. If I do Super Shift P again, there is an option for setting a random wallpaper. So just set a random wallpaper. Do you like it? No. Choose another one. Do you like that one? Yes. And that one, until just a couple of days ago, did not redraw a new lock screen image because I forgot about that when I did the first one. So I have changed that particular DM script to where now it is also, if you choose a random wallpaper, it will also do the new lock screen. So Super Shift Q, hit enter, there's our new lock screen. So that lock screen program, by the way, that's Better Lock Screen. Did a video about that the other day as well. So I think you guys all know what that is. Yeah, even though it has a nice geeky touch. Oh, I think I messed up something here. Well, Steve, I don't mind running your script, even if it does nothing. Let's go to the Brave browser here. Of course, I opened it with Rofi. Remember, there are key bindings for it. There was also the launcher here. Zero Linux. I'm assuming this is on your GitHub. Oh, I know you sent me the link, but remember, this is the VM we're dealing with here. So go to Zero Linux repositories. I bet we'll find it. Don't help me, Steve. I'm going to find it. No, you're going to have to help me, Steve. Which repo is it? I'll give Steve a chance to respond here if he's still here. If not, we'll move on. Yeah, you should play some music in the background. Yeah, I'd have to do Creative Commons, music though. If I'm going to keep the stream up, it would be fine during the live stream for me to play copyrighted music. I just have to make sure to delete the stream as soon as I'm done, because YouTube would eventually flag it. Sid, there's a project called Fabric for creating conky-like widgets, but you can use Python. Huh, interesting. Yeah, I'm not that interested in creating conky-like widgets. To be these days, I'm not. This kind of stuff doesn't interest me. This is a very simple conky, right? And anything that requires, a lot of hassle, just not that into Zero Linux Dev. Oh, so I'm on the wrong GitHub. There we go. Repositories, Zero Fix scripts. Okay. And update. So user local bin, update. Let's go ahead and copy the raw file. Let's launch Emacs. Let me navigate to .local bin, and we'll create a file called UPD. And let's paste that and write and quit. Well, before I closed it, I should have changed the permissions. Well, I can open a terminal and get this done. chmod +x .local bin update. All right, and now update. Got to enter my DTOS password. It's installing Figlet because we needed Figlet. Let's see. Update protocol ready. Sure. Oh, the DTOS password has to be entered again. That is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing to do. So we just did a fresh install, and everything came from the Arch repos, my repos, or the chaotic AUR. So nothing has been pushed out in any of that. Flatpak and snaps are not installed out of the box. I just didn't bother shipping those. I wasn't going to install any Flatpaks or snaps out of the box anyway. I thought about just installing the actual Flatpak and Snapd packages just so they're there on the system, but I figured if people want them, they can install them. I may eventually add that as an option in the install script. It's something that's simple enough. It'd take me all of about 2 minutes to add that to the script. That would be very simple. All systems synced and firing on all cylinders. No reboot needed. All right. Let's see. Oh, I wasn't looking at the screen here. Well, let's do it again. So I went and got his script from his GitHub here. And let's do UPD was the name of the script. You hit Y, you enter my do-as password in my case, and your case probably sudo, and there was nothing to do. All right. Yeah, I'm still streaming the chat. Yeah, I think we got it now, though. All right. I'm going to get out of this VM here. What was I looking for? This here, this file here. I think this was the file I had last time on the stream where I had some to-do items I wanted to work on. I added a few things. Now the DTOS install script does check if you're using UEFI, and it prevents you from using it if you're not using UEFI. We can mark this as done. I added aliases to make the font bigger. Remember, now on the ISO and also after install, you have new aliases for making the TTY fonts bigger. If I go to the TTY, even on the installed DTOS, big font. Oh, does not work. Interesting. Unable to find the font because those fonts aren't available. Well, that's I should either make those fonts available or remove the alias after it gets installed. I'll make a note of that. So, note, does not work on installed DTOS, just on ISO. So I'll decide whether I want to make it work after the fact or not. Later, add an alias or a script for toggling conky on and off. I knew I needed that. We already took care of that. I haven't done anything with GTK theming out of the box yet, and I need to make sure certain config files get shipped for some default GTK theming. Same thing with Qt. Haven't done that. Work on DTOS color scheme. So I knew I needed to write that script, and I think it's working. I'm going to mark that when it's done. I haven't done extensive testing on it. I've tested it a little bit, and it looks like it's done. Logout with DM logout is buggy. So I had an error on the last stream where logout sometimes took forever. I know what the problem is, though. When you first log in, not the right TTY, let's go to TTY2, which is your graphical session. When you first log into DTOS for the very first time, remember that Emacs daemon is running in the background and it's compiling. And it's going to take some time. And while it's doing that, if you log out, so Super Shift Q to get your session menu and log out and go to the logout menu, you'll get to the logout menu just fine. But if you try to log back in, sometimes it takes forever. Let's see, it might actually take forever right now. And I think the problem, well, I thought the problem had something to do with Emacs compiling, but now I don't think it's an Emacs problem. Hell, I'm not even sure it's not just a virtual machine only problem. And it doesn't happen every time either. This has been a weird kind of bug. Sometimes it's just fine. But right now, it's an issue. It'll eventually come up, or it'll error out, and then I'll log back in, and then next time it'll work. Yeah, I'm not sure what this is. And again, not exactly until I figure out what the bug is. I really don't know how to fix that. I'm just not sure what's causing that. Theme dunce notifications. So right now, the dunce notifications, well, we're not in the desktop, but we can do it on here. I don't have dunce. Do I not have dunce installed on my host machine? I may not. No, I don't. That is interesting. How did I go this long without having dunce installed? I can't believe I've never noticed that before. I just got a beep from my computer speakers. I bet that was the VM. Finally, yeah, the VM logged in. All right, we got an error message, though. Let's actually check out the error message. GD bus error. Free desktop. Policy kit error. Paul kit error, okay. An authentication agent already exists for the given subject. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I do notice that I have two network manager applets running now. So was it a situation where when I shut down the first time, it didn't kill all of this stuff and they were already, I don't know. But at least I got it on camera. Maybe you guys have some thoughts on that. What could be causing that issue? Back to dunce now. Well, actually, I could just show you in the VM. I don't have to show it in the real machine. The dunce notifications are not themed in any way. So if I click on, well, they're not working in here either. How about we just reboot? Yeah, dunce is installed now, though. Okay, that wasn't what I wanted to do. There we go. But the dunce notifications, you can see this is the just default blue background with white font. Hasn't been themed in any way. Obviously, I need it to match the 10 different color schemes for Util, Alacrity, Emacs, Conky. So I haven't even started that, but it is on the to-do list. I need to create 10 different color schemes configurations for dunce. Dunce is not very complicated, though. The theme is not a lot you can do with it. Create a reasonably configured NeoVim. Yeah, I'm not certain I want to do that or not. If I do, it'll be a very basic NeoVim configuration. License readme for all the repos and /etc. I believe I've already got that done. I needed a key binding added to DTMax. I haven't added that. I'll add that the next time I want to rebuild my config and push out a new version. I don't want to do that just for one minor change. But when I actually have to do some real work on my Emacs config, I'll make sure to add that. And then a lot of DM scripts. Yeah, testing some of the DM scripts to see if they work or not. Which we can test some of them right now. I know the music script worked. I know the man page script worked. I know the hub, just listing all the DM scripts. I know that one works. The bookmark manager, I think that's one of the ones I was going to ditch because it really doesn't work properly. I may remove that one. Dictionary. Let's try this one. DM-dictionary. Enter a word to look up. No, I don't know. Dog. And it suggests some words for dog. Dog, dag, dob. I wanted actual dog, D-O-G. So choose the first one. And it opens the Alacrity terminal. And it spits out some dictionary information about dog. Okay, Q to quit. That one works. Then enter the next word to look up. Just escape out of it. Okay, so we know that one works fine. DM documents, that just searches for PDFs in your home directory recursively. It's not much there, and then it opens it with your PDF reader. Not a very interesting script. DM EQ profiles, I have no idea what this thing does. It was a community contribution. It has something to do with audio configuration, though. DM IP gets your IP address. I'm not going to show that on camera, but I'm pretty sure that one works. DM kill kills processes. I could go find a process to kill, like my network manager applet. Kill it, and it's gone. Not in the sys tray anymore. Let's see. DM lights has something to do with backlights for, keyboards and things like that. There's another user submitted script. I don't know if that thing works or not. I can't test it out. I don't have anything that it would work on. DM radio, that's one I wrote to listen to online radio. Even if this did work, I don't know if it was actually going to play in the VM or not. Might be playing, might not be playing. That one probably needs some work, though. I'd have to make sure all the URLs are up to date. DM web search I know works because it's basically like a surf-raw kind of script that I wrote. It's my version of surf-raw, where I list a bunch of search indices and, what do you want to search for? Let's search the Arch AUR for what query? How about DM scripts? I know it's in there. And it opens the browser, the Brave browser. Do the search page for DM scripts. There it is. Yeah, so some of the scripts work. Some of them don't work at all. Some of them work, but have issues. You got a lot of work to do on DM scripts. But we've got a little bit of work done this week on some things. Overall, I'm pretty happy with some of the progress we've made so far. Really, the biggest thing on a project like this is the early stages are the hard part. Just getting started, like writing that install script to get it to the point where it's at. Was a massive amount of work, right? Took a ton of time, not necessarily writing the script itself, but you got to test it out. There's errors. You got to rerun installations all the time. I probably installed, 100 different installations, DTOS, trying to work out that script. Yeah, back to the chat. I'm gonna kill the stream probably in about 5 minutes. Any questions, comments, anything you guys want to discuss before I get out of here for the day? Yeah, try VS Codium. It's a fork of VS Code. Huh. Yeah, I've never really played with them. I mean, I've opened VS Code a time or two on various Linux distributions or other operating systems I've played around with that already had it. But as somebody that's primarily a Vim/Emacs Evil Mode user, yeah, it's not for me. I need my Vim key bindings. I need them to actually work right. So I need the full complement of them too. And the only editor that really emulates Vim, and it's got almost everything Vim could ever possibly do, like Emacs Evil Mode, pretty much got like 98% of everything you want to do with Vim key bindings is in Emacs Evil Mode. And then the stuff that isn't, well, you've got standard Emacs key bindings for standard Emacs programs that would do the rest. So Yeah, Anglo, you recently stopped programming in Rust and started programming in C. I don't know much about either one of them myself. Maybe one day I'll play around a little bit with Rust, but right now, got too much on my plate to start playing around with a new programming language. Yeah, you love C though. Yeah, DT, rise to the TTY. Yeah, you know what? We've already worked a little bit on the TTY on the DTOS ISO. I mean, the fact that you can change the font size with an alias, you know, that was cool, right? Yeah, change the colors. Yeah, you made a video about how. Yeah, I did want to provide people with a halfway decent TTY experience. Anybody that wanted to use it as a live ISO. So yeah, I may play around with more configuration. I've already got some configuration to it anyway. But yeah, I don't hate that idea. What fetch does DTOS use? I don't know if I installed one. Back to the VM. Because I don't use it out of the box, as far as it's not something that just comes up. Because I have my own shell color scripts program that, you know, every time I open a terminal, I get a random shell color scripts. That's part of my shell color scripts package that, you know, I've had for years. But I don't. NeoFetch is dead. I might install FastFetch. It is here. Oh, even though I don't use it, or it's not set up to automatically display. I guess for people that do want it, I do have it here. And if you wanted to use it, what you would do is you would go in, well, since the fish shell is the default shell, you go into .config/fish, config.fish, go to the last line. Let me zoom in. And it's not exactly the last line, but right here. If status is interactive, run color script random. That's our random color scripts. Well, how about if status is interactive? Comment this out. And run, I guess we just run a simple FastFetch command. Would that work? Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, seems to be working. So it is there as an option. As far as FastFetch is already installed. Yeah, so one line thing to change in the fish config, you would go find that same line in the bash config and the same line in the ZSH config, because I have all three shells on the system. All three are configured with the same basic config. And modify the /etc OS release file so that programs like NeoFetch can get the distro name. Yeah. Do I have the OS release on this system? I know it's on the ISO, but I don't know if it gets copied over. Yeah, it's here. Name, DTOS. It's already there. Ooh, not the screen I wanted. But keep in mind, I mean, these programs like NeoFetch or FastFetch, I mean, what are they going to do with this information? You know, name is DTOS. I mean, it's not a distribution they know about, not a distribution they'd have a ASCII art image for or anything like that. I mean, I could create my own little custom fetch, you know, if I really wanted something like that, but I don't know. I'll probably just stick with my shell color scripts. But the OS release file is there. What's the other one that sometimes programs will use? Is it LSB_release? Yeah, it's not even on the system. Well, actually, I think that's in Etsy too. LSB_. Yeah, either way, it's not there. All right. Anything else before I get out of here, guys? Make a pull request. Well, I guess to the FastFetch guy. Yeah, I could always do that if I... Yeah, Jake, greetings. How's it going? You're catching us right at the end. We're about to shut down. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. Hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day. And other than that, I'm going to show some names on the screen. And thank you to the patrons. These guys help support my work here. I do want to say thanks to each and every one of these fine ladies and gentlemen as well. And other than that, yeah, Zero, you like the geeky style in the update script? I did, yeah. I thought it was themed well. All right, guys, take care. Peace.